In 2025, Vancouver will lose its crown as Canada's most expensive real estate market. This city that's going to overtake Canada and become the most expensive real estate market is one I don't think you're going to expect. Hey there, and welcome back to Bald Prairie Real Estate. My name is Matthew Pfeifer, real estate agent in Regina, Saskatchewan. That's my trusted assistant, Matilda, once again, sleeping on the job. This is the weekly news recap where we go through what I think are the most interesting Canadian real estate related news topics, and I give you my thoughts and opinions on them. Yes, we're going to be talking about which city is going to overtake Vancouver as Canada's most expensive real estate market. But of course, we got to start off with another one of my terrible bad dad jokes. Did you hear about the race between two silkworms? It ended in a tie. If you have a terrible joke I can use in a future episode, put in the comments below. Let's get into this week's real estate news. Fast pause here. You're ready to buy a house, but you don't have a great real estate agent? Don't worry, I can handpick one for you from my great network of agents anywhere in the country. If you look in the description of this video, there's a link to my calendar where you can book me for an agent consultation, and I'm gonna find you the perfect agent. More and more people are falling behind on their mortgages. This article is for London, Ontario, talking about mortgage arrears, and I anticipate wherever it is you're located, you're probably seeing some sort of a similar article. Instead of London, insert your city name here. But let's go straight to the data and break things down a little bit more. The article was using CMHC data. For this, I'm going to use the Canadian Bankers Association data. They do a report every single month talking about mortgage arrears, and I really like the way they outline it here. So that's why I'm referencing this data. Now, they collect data from all the banks, a bunch of the monoline lenders. It doesn't include credit unions, and the private lenders, credit unions typically have very similar numbers to the big banks. So you can kind of put that with that data that we're going to talk about here. Private lenders absolutely have higher arrears rate than the big banks and credit unions. I've seen a lot of exaggerated headlines like this one right here, talking about how mortgage arrears are up 24%, and it's, oh my God, how terrible that is. What a lot of them tend to not point out is that the data point they're referencing, because it's always year over year changes, is essentially the lowest mortgage arrears have ever been in Canada. About a year and a half, 2 years ago, they bottomed out at essentially 0%, meaning that there's only one direction mortgage arrears can go, up. According to the most recent data from the Canadian Bankers Association, which is from October, because again, we have to wait for these mortgages to end up 90 days delinquent before they get reported, the delinquency rate increased from 0.2% to 0.21%. The record low, which was about a year and a half ago, was 0.14%, and a year ago it was 0.17%. As of this report, there's about 10,000 mortgages in arrears across Canada of the over 5 million. It's important to note that historically, about 50% of mortgages in arrears ever end up in a foreclosure or power of sale situation, meaning that people are more likely to get caught up on their mortgage payments than politicians are to tell us the truth.
And the budget will balance itself.
The number of mortgages in arrears has been climbing now for a year and a half, and I expect that it will probably continue to climb, but we're still not even at the pre-pandemic level, which was about 0.35%, and that was the lowest it had ever been in Canadian history. I've seen it said before that it takes approximately 12 to 18 months before we see the impact of interest rate changes on the market. I've said how I disagree with that in the past, but as of this report, so October, that is 30 months past the Bank of Canada starting to raise interest rates and 13 months past the Bank of Canada stopping interest rate increases. We're also 4 months into the Bank of Canada cutting interest rates, again, all as of October, meaning we're well past that lag effect of interest rate increases impacting the market, and we're getting close to starting to talk about interest rate cuts impacting the market on a lag effect, if you subscribe to that theory. Now let's talk about the monthly rent report from Rentals.ca. This report is as hot off the press as it gets. It came out only about an hour before I sat down to record this video. Rentals.ca once again reporting that rents are dropping in Canada. This again is asking rents. That's what Rentals.ca reports. It is down 3% year over year, a 17-month low. Even still, average asking rent in Canada is $2,100 a month. The price of asking rent went up 8.6% in 2023 and 12% in 2022. That is very clearly unsustainable. Breaking it down by property type, it's actually houses and townhouses that saw the largest year-over-year decreases. 7.4% for those. Condos are down 5%, and purpose-built rentals are essentially unchanged, down 0.3%. Breaking it down by individual cities, Vancouver's down 6 to 7%, Toronto's down 6 to 7%, Victoria's down about 1.5% to 3%, Calgary is down 6 to 7%. That's a real surprising one. Winnipeg rents are up about 3.5% to about 6%. Edmonton is up about 3.5%, Regina is up about 2 to 4%, and Saskatoon is up about 5 to 6%. Saskatoon, all through 2024, saw some of the highest year-over-year rent increases for the entire country. I expect nationally we will continue to see declines for asking rents. The bigger cities like Toronto, Vancouver, I expect will continue to see the largest year-over-year declines, whereas the prairie cities are very likely to continue to see some rent increases. There will very likely be a bump in the spring. That is typically when you see rent prices increase a little bit, but we'll have to wait a year from now to see what happens year over year. Let's get into this week's best available mortgage interest rates. If you're wondering why I often say that the lowest interest rate isn't necessarily the best mortgage, I've got an explainer for that right here. You should check that out. Starting off with the best insured mortgage rates for a 3-year fixed, the best I could find was through Radius at 4.19%, and that is a drop. The best 5-year fixed I could find was also 4.19 through Radius and a drop. When it comes to 5-year variable interest rates, the best static variable I could find, 4.5% through Manulife, that's unchanged. The best adjustable variable rate I could find, 4.45 through Manulife, also unchanged. Looking at uninsurable mortgages, the best 3-year I could find, 4.74 through CMLS, that is unchanged. The best 5-year fix I could find, 4.74 through First National, that's unchanged. For the best 5-year variables, static 4.9% through Scotiabank, unchanged. Best adjustable 4.95 through Marathon, unchanged. And I did keep track of these rates while I was on holidays, so they're all week over week, not since the last time I reported these numbers. Looking at the big 5 banks when it comes to the best 5-year insurable fixed I could find, BMO comes in at first place, 4.45, unchanged. CIBC comes in second, 4.59, unchanged. RBC comes in third at 4.59, unchanged. Scotiabank comes in fourth, 4.69, unchanged. And TD rounds out the bottom at 5th place, 4.84, and that is a slight drop from last week. Talking with mortgage brokers while I was writing this, they are anticipating that next week, it sounds like the lenders are already telling them to expect 10 to 15 basis point jumps in their rates. Looking at the Canada 5-year bond over the last week, it trended up from 2.9 to 3%. If you go over the last 4 months or so, it has stayed around 3%, little jumps up above it and a little bit of jump below it, but essentially it's been at 3% for the last 4 months now, and that's why we haven't seen a ton of movement in those 5-year fixed rates. Now let's look at an article saying that Toronto will be Canada's most expensive real estate market in 2025. In this article, they interview Royal LePage president Phil Soper. Now, I am a Royal LePage agent, and I have in the past disagreed with Phil Soper and Royal LePage's projections. I will be talking about their 2025 forecast when I do my 2025 predictions video. Make sure you get subscribed for that because that video is coming out very shortly. I'm waiting on one more forecast that's going to be released here in a couple of days to add it to that video before I go and actually record it. What I don't like about this article is that it seems the author may not be quite as versed in some of the real estate lingo, and then Phil Soper is talking kind of almost in a little bit of a different language, and it results in some errors in the article, or at least information that maybe isn't presented as well as it could be. As an example, the article talks about the average price in Toronto and Vancouver, and then is actually quoting the number from the Canadian Real Estate Association's composite benchmark price. Those are 2 different numbers. The average price is very simply a function of dividing up the total dollar value of the sales divided by the number of sales, whereas benchmark price is more focused on tracking price changes and fluctuations based on a set of criteria. There's more nuance to it. Right now in Vancouver, the composite benchmark price, $1.172 million, and in Toronto, $1.106 million. The average price in Toronto is actually about $1.117 million. It's a small difference, but a difference nonetheless. In the article, Phil Soper says that they expect that the Toronto home prices will increase at twice the pace of Vancouver. So Not only are both cities going to increase, Toronto is going to increase twice as much as Vancouver. According to Royal LePage's own forecast that they published, Vancouver is expected to see home prices increase 4% to $1.271 million, whereas in the Greater Toronto Area, prices are expected to increase 5% to $1.225 million. Those are the numbers directly from the Royal LePage forecast that they just published. And last time I checked, I'm not a math expert here, but 5 is not double of 4, and $1.271 million is greater than $1.225 million. So I have no idea why Phil is saying that home prices in Toronto will end the year higher than Vancouver and that they will increase at double the rate. That is not presented in anywhere in their own forecast. As well, with all Royal LePage forecasts, they don't use average price, median price, or even the Canadian Real Estate Association's composite benchmark price. They have their own benchmark price. RPS is what is called Real Property Solutions, is who it's created by. I believe that's a subsidiary of Royal LePage to begin with. So they're not even using the same numbers that kind of everybody else typically uses, unless there is a forecast that Royal LePage has put out that talks about average price or uses the composite benchmark price from the Canadian Real Estate Association. And I don't have the access to that. So if you do, maybe send that to me. Hey, Phil, send me the information using for this article. I will then present that and we'll see what the numbers actually are. Honestly, though, I'm not sure that we're going to see Vancouver home prices increase 4% and Toronto home prices increase 5%. I see a world where both of those cities are competing to see which has the largest year-over-year price decreases. I'll be talking about that in my forecast video. And if you want to know what's going on right now in the Canadian real estate market, here is my most recent monthly Canadian real estate market update. Check that video, give this video a like, and as always, thanks very much for watching.